You guys are working on creating emotion in your artwork, and you're going to use the drawing center, the painting center, the printmaking center, or the collage center to do that. So I want to show you a couple techniques you can use with painting with tempera paint to create that emotion. So here I've started a painting, and you can see there's a lot of hard edges. Nice and hard edges here with a lot of contrast. But I want to create more of a moody, maybe sad or somber or scary even atmosphere. So I'm going to do a technique called dry brush and scumbling. So I'm going to use my paintbrush. I'm not going to get it wet with water. I'm just going to load it with some paint. I'm going to use, in this case, a little bit of black, some blue and white on my paintbrush. I don't want it heavy with paint, a little bit of paint, so that I can get this dry brush technique. And what that does is it lets the paper show through, and it creates a lot of texture, which in turn is going to create that kind of emotional feeling. So I want you guys to, if you're going to do a painting, try this. You don't even need a cup of water. I'm just, again, using a little bit of paint on my brush and then really rubbing it or scumbling it across the paper to create this texture where the paper again is showing through. Now this is just what we call dry brush technique because my paintbrush is dry. I have not put it in water. You want to keep it dry, no water. And not a lot of paint because the paint is pretty wet. And then I'm using a very light touch. I'm not pushing hard. I'm just lightly rubbing it across my paper to create this dry brush look. All right, now it's softening some of those edges. So now what I want to do is soften some of my edges even more and maybe even create a little bit more contrast. So I'm just going to use white paint now. And now here I'm really going to do what's called scumbling, which is where I'm painting on top of existing color. And it works best if you have a darker color underneath and you scumble with a lighter color on top. So now I'm going to put some of that white back in. But what I want to do is go over my bird a little bit to soften, again, to soften those edges. So it looks a little bit more emotional or moody. I'm just taking that white paint, and again with a light touch, I'm just kind of dragging my paintbrush across the paper. And this is going to create more depth in your artwork and perspective. It's going to look just more emotional and atmospheric as far as perspective goes. So I want you to experiment with those techniques, the dry brush and then the scumbling. Remember, when you scumble, you start with a dark color underneath and you put that lighter color on top to just soften it and blend your edges. All right, have fun, artists, creating your artwork with emotion.